Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Twin City Trio podcast here on YouTube. My name is Cale Fleming, alongside me my two hosts, Gavin Campbell and Tyson Snyder. Tyson, what's going on today?
Oh, a whole lot of nothing. About you?
Oh, I'm trying to battle this cold I've got, so I apologize for sounding so weird, so sick. Gav, what's going on?
Just concerned for you, man. Hope you can make it through the show.
Oh, we'll be all right. I'm probably not going to talk very much today other than the Illini men's basketball game, but we'll make it through here. Speaking of that, on today's rundown, we have Minnesota taking on Illinois tomorrow at 2:30 here at Memorial Stadium. We're going to break that down a little bit. Not too much, but a little bit. Going off of that, we have some Central Illinois high school football Tyson's going to give to us. And then we're going to talk about the men's basketball season opener against Illinois Wesleyan tonight. I'm going to talk about that. Talk about the recruiting, or where we're at in our recruiting situation. We're going to move on to the NFL as well. We're going to switch it up, go back to football. Tyson's matchup of the week is going to be in there. And then the last topic of the day is going to be Gav's NBA week. We had some pretty interesting news, including Derrick Rose. 2011 Derrick Rose might have been back. But first, we're going to kick it off today with Illinois taking on the Minnesota Golden Gophers here at home at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be a good game in my opinion. Minnesota's 4-4, Illinois is 3-5. It's going to be a grab game, honestly. It's going to depend on our running back and quarterback play. I don't really know who I'm going to pick in this game, to be real honest, Gavin, because it could go either way.
Yeah, it really could go either way. Looking at the rest of Illinois' schedule, I think this is the last game I think we have a real shot at other than Nebraska. But they've turned it around a little bit as well. So we'll have to see if they come out strong, if they bounce back from these past couple weeks of getting their butt kicked. The offense actually hasn't looked awful. I mean, it hasn't looked great, but it hasn't looked awful. If our defense could just get a couple stops, that's all I'm asking for. Give our quarterback or running back, even our receivers, just give them a chance to make a couple plays. If we can get 2-3 stops in this game, I don't see why there's any reason we couldn't win. This team, to me, after watching Maryland, I believe they are a little bit worse talent-wise. So I think that's also a plus for us. And who knows, maybe MJ Rivers can shake off last week as well. Reggie Corbin needs to bring it. Mike Epstein needs to show up. I don't know where he was at last week. Maybe out with an injury. Maybe coach's decision. I'm not sure. Even Rayvon Bonner, if we get him a couple carries, just get the whole offense involved and build off of what we were doing last week at Maryland.
Absolutely.
Yeah, agreed. Like you said, this is one of the last teams we have a chance against, and I think you nailed it right on the head. Defense is going to be key in this. If the defense can make a couple stops, that gives us a heck of a chance at winning this game. And Minnesota hasn't looked great, but they've looked all right so far this season. So it's probably going to be a close one, a lot closer than we'd hope for a team that's mediocre, but we're a mediocre team as well, so hopefully we can pull this one out.
I'm glad you guys are bringing up defense because, as we know, on Monday we talked about the resigning of defensive coordinator Hardy Nickerson, who's been with Lovie Smith for multiple years. So this is going to be the first game without him. You guys got any thoughts on it? Defense going to change? Going to stay the same? Improve? What do you think?
Well, it'll be one of his assistant coaches that'll be taking up more of the defensive side, or Lovie, which they're all familiar with the system. So I don't expect the system to change. I don't expect the play calling to change. It'll just be a different person behind the play sheet calling them.
Absolutely. I don't think there's going to be any changes. Lovie's going to write the script, and whoever he hands that to is going to roll with it. I think Tyson hit it on the head.
For sure. You guys got anything else you want to add?
Please win.
Just
one. It's been a rough 3 weeks, and I'd really just like us to get another win in that column. I think 4 wins, especially going into next year, to where I think we can win 6 or 7. Need to win 6 or 7. It would just be really nice to build off of going into next season.
All right, so we're going to move on here. We're going to move into Central Illinois high school football. We're just going to say state of Illinois football because we're in the playoffs. Tyson's picked some games throughout 1 through 8A, all the classes. So, Tyson, what do you got for us this week?
Here, if you want to write down our picks again this week.
Yeah, I got it.
All right, so our first game of the week, I decided to go with Fisher and Argenta. Fisher beat Cumberland 48-15 last week. Argenta, the number 1 seed, beat B-Mint 50-10. I'm going to go with Argenta again in this one. They're undefeated on the season. I expect it'll stay that way. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hop on the bandwagon in this one. Not too much else to add. Just a really dominant football program, expecting a win in the second round.
As much as I want to see Fisher win, they're more local than Argenta is. It's kind of hard to take a 1 seed or go against a 1 seed who hasn't lost yet. So go Argenta.
Right, agreed. All right, moving on to our 2A game. I went with Bismarck versus Tuscola. two teams we've kind of kept up on throughout the year a little bit here. Bismarck won 66-30 last week against Hamilton, and Tuscola another big win over Villa Grove, 42-6. Who you guys taking in this one?
I'm taking Tuscola just for the sheer fact that we know what they're capable of doing all year, especially in the playoffs. They did have a little rough patch this season, but I feel like they've worked themselves out of it.
Well, and their loss is to St. Teresa, I believe, is still undefeated on the year. So that's not a bad loss, especially getting over 20 points on that defense. It's pretty stout. I'm also going to take Tuscola. I think Henning showed some holes in that defense I think Tuscola can exploit, so go Warriors.
Yeah, agreed. I'm taking Tuscola in this one. Like Cale said, we know what they're capable of. Moving on to our 3A game, I went with number 13 Greenville this week against number 12 Pleasant Plains. One of the two double upset matches in the 3A division this week. Greenville won 28-14 over Farmington, who was one of the favorites in the Southern Division, and Pleasant Plains won over Beardstown, who was also another favorite in the Southern Division. They won 54-35. So my thoughts on this one, Pleasant Plains put up 54 on a very, very good Beardstown team, but Greenville took out the number one school in the southern half of the 3A division this year. So it's going to be a close one, I think, but I'm going to take Pleasant Plains, the slightly favored seed here, just for the amount of points they were able to put up on Beardstown.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I'm going to take Greenville. I'm going to go the other way, not necessarily disagree. Just for the sheer fact that Greenville took down a 1 seed, that's pretty impressive. They're going to ride that momentum into this week.
I don't think we're going to see a Cinderella story here. I think that the best defense is a better offense, so I'm also going to take Plains in this one.
Oh, yeah. I would say it's going to be a close one. Either one of those is a good pick. I'm glad to see we had a little different opinions there, so we might have a little bit different scores this week. But moving on, the 4A game this week is going to be Paris against Effingham. About the only teams that were close still left in the 4A division. Paris beat Salem last week 42-14. Effingham pulled out a win over Breeze Matter Day 21-6. So what do you guys think for that 4A matchup?
I'm taking Paris. Paris has won a few titles in their day. Effingham, another good team, also has some titles. I followed a little bit of Paris football, and they beat Salem too, who also wins quite a bit. So I'm going to have to take Paris in this game.
I'm a little surprised you didn't take Effingham because you've taken them a couple times this year when we've talked about them. But
They've let me down too.
Right, I was going to take Paris in this matchup, but just too bad we couldn't get some differentiation. How about that word? How about it, Tyson? We're going to be unanimous?
No, we are not. I'm actually going to take Effingham in this one because I've picked against them every time that we've picked them this year, and they've actually won when I picked against them. So I'm going to go with Effingham in this one. I think they'll pull it out. Moving on, 5A, I picked Carbondale versus Cahokia. Carbondale, we know, pulled out a close one last week against Central, 31-28. Cahokia beat Mount Zion 22-6. Mount Zion's a pretty solid team.
Yeah, that's a big team.
Who are you guys thinking on this one? I'm taking Cahokia. I'll say that up front. I don't think Carbondale's win over Central was impressive enough. We all thought that was going to be a lot bigger loss for Central than it was. So I'm impressed with Central. I'm let down with Carbondale, so I'm taking Cahokia.
That's exactly why I'm taking Carbondale, because the Cahokia about lost to Central. Central played a good game last week, so therefore I'm going to take Carbondale and their momentum.
See, I really want to, but I think, like Tyson said, Central played a better game than Carbondale. They just came up short. I don't think they showed me enough in the first round where I can take them again, so I'm going to have to pick against them this week.
Okay, moving on, 6A. I went with Sacred Heart Griffin out of Springfield this week against number 2 Washington. Still undefeated on the season. Sacred Heart Griffin was a preseason one of the favorites to win the 6A division this year. Incredible team. They stumbled a little bit along the way, 8-2, but they won last week 34-14 over Quincy. Washington, we know they won, and they won big again, 35-0 over New Lenox. No surprise there that they stomped another opponent on their way. I am just going to put it out there. I'm taking Washington in this one. I think they'll continue their undefeated streak. They have looked far too good this year in far too many games. I don't see him stumbling, even though Sacred Heart Griffin has an outstanding team.
I'm taking Washington too, just because I did watch the pregame highlight show on Thursday night with Brett Behrens here on WCIA 3, and he's been pretty high on Washington all season. He's been pretty spot on so far, so I am going to have to steal his pick on this one because I'm not too sure about these bigger teams.
I'm not either, but I hear an undefeated team going up against an opponent who fell off of their preseason rankings, so I'm taking Washington all the way.
All right. Moving on to 7A, I picked up East St. Louis this year, going against Lombard. Lombard is the number 2 at 10-0. East St. Louis pulled up an offset. Holy crap! If I could talk, pulled off an upset.
There we
Lombard
go.
at East St. Louis. Man,
Yep.
that's a hike.
You got to remember, in this 7A division, they don't do 2 brackets, north and south. 7 and A.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
7 and 8, they just do 1 through 32. Whoever you match up against,
Wow.
whoever you match up against. But yes, that is
They're going clear across
a
the
trip.
state almost.
Yes, that game is in Lombard as well. So yes, it is up in Chicago, and I think that's what sold it for me. Even though East St. Louis had a good win last week, 62-14 over Hoffman Estates.
Another good team.
Yeah, and that's a big win. But they're going up against this Lombard team who beat Mount Prospect 40-14,
Wow.
and Lombard's at home. So I think that's enough reason for me to pick Lombard in this one.
I think you just convinced me because I was definitely going with East St. Louis until you brought up all the factors that went into it. So I think you have made me come over to the other side. I'm gonna go against East St. Louis.
Me too, just for the sheer fact that
That's a long drive.
That's
Yep.
the thing, is they've got home field, so East St. Louis has got to go clear from East St. Louis all the way up to Lombard. Man, that's a hike.
That's a well over 4-hour drive.
Oh, yeah, it
that's
is.
that's tough.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Hopefully, Cale doesn't die on air.
Okay, moving on to 8A. We've got number 16, OPRF, Oak Park River Forest, going up against the number 1 seed Chicago Brother Rice.
Oh, wow.
Brother Rice won last week 49-0 over Zion. OPRF pulled off a good win against Winnetka, 34-16. I believe they were the underdog in that one as well. Won it pretty handily against a team they weren't really supposed to beat very well. Chicago Brother Rice, I'm going to pick with them again.
Me
I
too.
figure we end on an easy one again. Chicago Brother Rice has looked great this year. They're undefeated for a reason. Number 1 seed in the entire 8A division. We saw that last week with their win 49-0, so I'm going with them again.
Come playoffs, Chicago Brother Rice is another team in the 8A division that you just you hear about all the time. I mean, they're always in here, they're always winning big. So I cannot go against them. I say that, and then they're going to lose.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Chicago as well. Nothing else to add.
Yep. Just a couple other notable matchups back in the 3A division. We've got PBL this week playing Carlinville. PBL with a good win over Vandalia. Got an upset there. Going up against Carlinville, the number 2 team, undefeated in the Southern Division. So it should be an interesting game, having to go up against an undefeated team there. The other game that I found interesting in that division was Williamsville and Fairfield. Williamsville 9-1, Fairfield 10-0.
Ooh, that's going to be fun.
And I thought Williamsville was a favorite to win this year. They have looked outstanding. I'm surprised they lost a game on the season, but we'll see how they compare up against this undefeated team. The winner of that game will play PBL if they can pull out a win this week against Carlinville. Anything else you guys needed to touch on before we move on?
I don't know much about high school football, so I'm square.
Yeah, especially when it comes to the playoffs. I mean, I only got one Big 12 team left, and that's Normal West, and I'm hoping they can take it as far as they can. So
We get outside of 1 through 3A, I've got no idea.
Normal West is the 4 seed this week, going up against the number 5 seed, Palos Heights. So it should be a pretty good game. Palos Heights 8-2 on the year. Normal Community's 9-1. But it is in Normal, so that hopefully that gives them a little bit of a bump and they can pull out that win there.
You got to think, too, like I just said about Lombard and East St. Louis, man, these teams that don't got to drive, they got the bigger advantage. They ain't got
Absolutely.
to spend all that
That's a
time in the
long
vehicle.
bus ride.
Man.
Bus sucks for 30 minutes, let alone 4 hours.
Yeah.
But to say, I thought the trips going back and forth to Bloomington 3 times a year was bad.
That ain't nothing compared to that.
That makes it look like a stroll in the park, man.
Absolutely.
That's really long. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and move on here, but we're going to stick with football. And, Cale, we got to talk about the first matchup here on the board. We got to talk about the Chicago Bears traveling to Buffalo, the old chilly Buffalo in November. The Bills are 2-6, the Bears 4-3, coming into week 9, I believe it is, or this is week 8. 8 or 9, one of the two. We're midway through the
This is
season.
week 9.
Week 9, so
Yep.
there we go. Khalil Mack's been ruled out for this game. Allen Robinson has been ruled as questionable.
Peterman!
But the Bills are starting Nathan Peterman, old pick Peterman. What do you think? What do you think about this matchup?
If we don't win this game, I'm rooting for the Colts. No, that being said, since Peterman is starting, it's going to be a heyday for our secondary. He always throws picks. That's proven. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. That is also proven. I don't know, man. Like we were talking about last week, I know Tyson doesn't necessarily agree with our takes on it. He does and doesn't. I get it. About Khalil Mack, this is a team where we don't need Khalil Mack. We just paid him all that money. Let him rest up. Because we're going to need him here because we're going to have Green Bay with Minnesota still. So I would rather have Khalil Mack 100% for them games. But going off of that, I have nothing else to add other than the Bears should be 5-3 after Sunday.
Absolutely. We should be, and we should still be on top of the division. Tyson, how about your thoughts?
I just thought it was hilarious that the Bills came out and said that Peterman will be the starting quarterback because the other guy can't go. And it sounded like they were all excited about it, and I'm still confused why they would be excited about Peterman starting.
I'd go to your practice squad before I put that guy back in.
Yeah, but should be an easy win. I get you're joking, but a little early to jump off the bandwagon if they lose to the Bills.
Yeah.
Right.
But in Minnesota.
Right.
In reality, the Bills are an awful team.
As long as they don't go to sleep on them. The Bills have a stout defense. They have a top 10 defense.
They're averaging like 12 points a game, but they're only letting up like 16 points a game or something.
And we saw him, Tom Brady was only able to score, I think,
25
points against his defense.
Saying something.
Which, yeah, and he was at 12 points up until the fourth quarter, I believe.
He was only at 6 for the first half, and then 12 till the fourth quarter, and then he kind of went off. But
yeah, so this Bills defense is no joke. It's just their offense. So as long as the Bears can continue to put up over 20 points, which is they've shown they can do for the majority of this season, they should be all right. I mean, I just want to touch on Mitchell Trubisky's stats real quick for those people who have forgotten. This guy's almost thrown for 2,000 yards. 7 games into the season, he'll more than likely reach 2,000 yards after this game on Sunday. 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That's more than a 2-to-1 touchdown-interception ratio, which is above league average, which is great. That's what Tyson wanted to see. I think that's what all us Bears fans wanted to see. And then Jordan Howard, against this defense, I understand the Bills are top 10 in run defense, but I'd like to see him get the ball a little bit more. I'd like to also see Tariq Cohen out of the backfield get a few more catches. We saw him go off for that 70-yard touchdown run last week against the Jets. And
he's so fast. Once he hits open field, you can't catch him.
Absolutely. He's got 30 receptions for almost 400 yards this season, which is incredible to me as a running back. I'm not sure if he's leading the league in running back receiving yards.
Zeke is.
But I know he's pretty close. He's in the top 5.
Zeke is, and then Zeke and Todd Gurley.
No, Todd Gurley, yeah.
And then Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, and then Kareem Hunt's up there too.
And then I think you're right. I think he's either 5th or 6th.
Right. But with that said, no, these Bills, their offense it's just awful. I mean, let's just be honest. Ever since Jake Allen went down, and even with Jake Allen in the lineup, I mean, he was awful. I mean, 2 touchdowns and 5 interceptions this season. Sorry.
DraftJoshAllen.com.
There we go. Yeah, I know you guys are still high on him. Another guy I want to talk about real quick before we move on to the Cowboys game. LaShawn McCoy has 75 carries for 250 yards this season. He needs more touches.
Yep.
He needs a lot more touches, and I don't understand why Buffalo isn't getting him the ball, especially with them being a running team.
In my opinion, when Josh Allen was healthy and in the game, that dude's got a hose for an arm. So, I mean, I understand why he didn't get many touches when he's in the game because he can throw. I mean, that dude can throw the ball. You can't argue that.
No, I don't.
But at the same time, now that Josh Allen's not in the game, they're going to rely on Peterman to throw the ball, who, unlike Josh Allen, can't. I don't understand it either, other than that aspect right there.
They call him Shady for a reason. He's incredibly hard to bring down. It's hard to even find him because he's so fast, so shifty, you can't really get a hold of him. And when he was with the Eagles, he was averaging like 4.8 yards a carry for his career. Since he left there, he hasn't been getting nearly the touches, and I really couldn't tell you why. But I'm in agreement with you guys. He definitely needs to touch the ball more now that I can actually like him since he's out of Philly. He just hasn't had the season since he left because he just doesn't get the touches anymore.
All right, so let's move on to the second matchup here before we get to Tyson's game of the week. We have the Tennessee Titans taking on the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. The Cowboys are heavily favored in this one. Both teams coming in at 3-4. We got Dak Prescott on the season, 1,400 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Zeke leading the league in rushing yards, I believe still, 619. Or is it yards or yards per carry?
I am actually not sure. I think he's close in yards with Todd Gurley, and yards per carry, he's definitely up there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was number 1 in yards per carry because they had their bye week, and then Todd Gurley has played an extra game. But that I could be wrong. I could be miscuing the stats I saw on Instagram. But he's a heck of a guy. And then, of course, Cole Beasley out of the slot. And no doubt we will see the debut of Amari Cooper in a Cowboys uniform. Tyson, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. It should be great. I'm really expecting a lot out of Amari Cooper this week. I'm really hoping both of these teams have been struggling so far, and we've seen that. Dak is starting to find a rhythm here. 1,400 yards on the season, not bad. He's a 400 behind your boy up in Chicago. So it's not as bad as it could be. We've definitely seen some improvements since the first couple weeks. But once again, our saving grace here, we're playing at home, which hasn't been the story for Cowboy Stadium in the last since it's been built. They traditionally haven't played well in Jerry World. I'll touch on it again. They played much better away than at home. But this season we are 3-0 at home and 0-4 on the road. So coming back home should be hopefully a good win again here against the Titans with a struggling Marcus Mariota, which a couple weeks ago he had a game. He was 10 for 15 for like 75 yards or something like that.
He's really regressed this year.
Yeah, we have definitely seen him struggle. 3 touchdowns, 6 picks. Or 5 picks, not a great season. Zeke, we know, still being a beast. He's actually second in rushing yards. I just looked it up behind Todd Gurley. He's 180 behind Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley's got an extra week, which that's a pretty good week, 180 yards to make up that difference. But he is second in rushing yards, so he's still up there towards the top, still being a beast. But I'm excited to see how Amari Cooper can open up this field.
Yeah, absolutely. One other guy that I mentioned earlier, Cole Beasley, I'm going to see how he takes on being the second option now, being in his true position at the slot as Amari Cooper takes on the best corner, maybe even getting double-teamed on 5, 6, 7 plays a game, and just seeing his numbers go up. I'm sure his targets will drop a little bit, but his yards per game should go up a little bit, you would imagine. And I'm really, really interested to see their red zone percentage and where that goes with the addition of Cooper.
Yeah, agreed. I think he'll be back in more in his natural habitat. Cole Beasley will. He's not really number 1 receiver type. Not that he doesn't have that ability. He's just 5'9" and 180 pounds. He's just not your typical number 1 guy. So to have that typical number 1 guy, 6'4", 220, it's a big distraction, like I've touched on before, and that does nothing but help him and open him up. And he plays a lot better from the slot. We've seen that. I don't know if his touches will go down. He's still Dak's favorite target. Easy to throw to. He gets himself open. He's the only Cowboy on the roster, besides Amari Cooper, that has more than the league average of 3.3 yards of separation at the point of catch for each catch that he makes. He's the only Cowboy above that. So he's the only Cowboy that's able to get away from his defender to be able to make a catch.
Right, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amari Cooper leads the league in that stat category.
Yes, if he doesn't lead it, he's very close. But, yeah, he's incredibly good at getting that separation. And when he doesn't have that separation, he still makes the catches because he'll just go over the top of you.
All right, very exciting to see his debut on Monday. Let's go ahead and get to your matchup of the week. Or Cale, go ahead.
Before we get into that, so we all know that Cleveland Browns head coach Hugh Jackson and offensive coordinator Todd Haley were fired on Monday, correct?
See.
There is a little bit of a snippet here from an ESPN staff writer from Hugh Jackson's comments on First Take this morning that I kind of want to read.
Sure.
Quote, hang on a second, let me find it again. Hugh Jackson did not agree with the Cleveland Browns owner Jimmy Haslam's statement with that internal discord led to firing of Jackson offensive coordinator Todd Haley on Monday. This is a quote from Jackson. It says, quote, "I don't really think it was truly just about internal discord. I think that's a strong word. I think you have disagreements with coaches, with Todd, with Greg Williams, with Amos Jones, who's also the special teams coordinator. I don't think it's internal discord." And he also said this. This is kind of interesting to me. This is kind of what I wanted to talk about here. I think when you stop and look at it, it's truly really about Baker Mayfield. I think they want to do everything they can to put him in the situation. I mean, you got the first pick in the draft, but I think it's going to be a franchise quarterback who's going to be a sensational player, and he's not playing as well. So, again, here's a perfect storm to move forward and move on, end quote from Hugh Jackson. What do you guys think about that?
I don't think he's wrong. It wouldn't surprise me if there was internal discord as well, but I think that he's right. They're doing everything they can to make sure that Baker succeeds, and why wouldn't they? They drafted him first overall. They obviously had high hopes for him. Why not turn those hopes into reality, those dreams into reality, and make sure that your number one succeeds? You surrounded him with all this talent. Obviously something's not working, so something has to go.
The only thing they've done this season is ruin Baker Mayfield's most important year, and that's his rookie year. So now essentially he's 2 seasons behind. Jimmy Haslam and John Dorsey, they should have realized maybe they should have waited to fire their coaches till the offseason. So that way they could have had at least a guy, like we said on Monday, Todd Haley, just to get Baker through his first rookie season. I mean, honestly, that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, and I understand why you and a lot of other people come to that realization that maybe they should have just left Jackson there for the rest of the season. But if things aren't going well, we know what kind of owner, his name just escaped me. Haslam, thank you. We know what kind of guy he is. We saw him in Hard Knocks with the Cleveland Browns. He's a guy that likes to be in the mix. He's kind of a Jerry Jones-esque owner, obviously not on that level yet, but I think that he just wanted to be in control, and there needed to be a scapegoat, and it's just unfortunate that the head coach at the time had to take the fall.
Jimmy Haslam and Jerry Jones are boys. Just keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right, sorry, I just want to throw
Well, no, that's okay, and we know what kind of system they're running. They've had more starting quarterbacks than years we've been alive since the year 2000.
Yeah.
And they've had more by a lot. We know what kind of owner they are, and I'm thinking he's trying to get away from swapping quarterbacks, so maybe he'll just keep swapping coaches. But we'll see. But moving on, back to L.A. versus New Orleans is the game of the week we are going to touch on this week. L.A. coming in at 8-0, New Orleans at 6-1. Both teams extremely good, leading their divisions. Should be an incredible, competitive NFC matchup this week. L.A. has looked phenomenal. We know they've got that high-powered offense with Todd Gurley and Jared Goff leading the way, and all those phenomenal receivers, and especially the newer guy filling in for Cooper Kupp last week, Reynolds, went for like 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. So the Rams have looked absolutely great. The kicker is New Orleans is playing at home. At home, New Orleans has played phenomenal, specifically Drew Brees. Drew Brees is averaging 348 yards per game at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome down there in New Orleans, and he's got 8 touchdowns, no picks when they're at home. So we know Drew Brees plays great while they're at home. It gives them an incredible advantage. If you can have one of the best to ever do it, come out and play like he is the best. It gives them a great advantage going in against the Rams. But I think this game will be a shootout, just like the Rams had last week against Aaron Rodgers. But I'm still picking the Rams to come out on top of this one.
They've got 2 tough games right back to back. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. He's going to do what Aaron Rodgers does. And then you got going into New Orleans and facing Drew Brees. Man, that's tough.
Yeah, it is. But I think the most interesting stat that I've found so far is, according to ESPN's Power Index, these teams are evenly matched, exactly evenly matched, coming in at 49.8% chance to win this game for both teams, even though the Saints are at home. So that should show you that the Rams are slightly favored if this was a home game. But the fact that they have to go on the road after playing at home against Aaron Rodgers, like you said, and man, Ty Montgomery blew that for them, didn't they? But that's a story. Baltimore, yeah. That's a story for a different day. Yeah, this is just I think it's going to come down to a battle of offenses. I know the Saints and the Rams both have a stout defense, but for some reason, I'm getting the itch that this is going to be like a 41-38 game. I think both quarterbacks are going to come out firing. I would really like to see the coaching battle in this one. Something I don't think enough people are talking about is Sean McVay versus Sean Payton, battle of the Seans. I would really like to see this, and if they come up with some crafty things to try to outsmart each other. I'm really interested, just really, really interested to watch this game on Sunday.
Sean McVay being, 32?
34,
34, okay. So he's one of the youngest coaches in the NFL.
He's the youngest coach.
He's one of the best, too. I mean, the mind he's got for a football is unreal. Look what he's doing with Jared Goff. Honestly, I feel like Jared Goff is one of the most system quarterbacks you can get, even though, and I know your take on that, but he's turned Jared Goff into something. He's taken his strengths and just elevated them.
Well, yeah, he's in the running for MVP right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no reason why he can't be.
I can't. Is Todd Gurley on there too? Yeah. Todd Gurley,
he's up there with Patty Mahomes, and
that's another good race. About dropped it. Sorry.
Whoop. No. Let me just talk about the other quarterback real quick, and Drew Brees. 10 yards short of 2,000 yards in 7 games. This is a guy that's probably going to throw for 4,500, if not close to 5,000 again. We already know he's got the record for most passing yards in a career, and he's probably got another 3 or 4 years left in him. Perhaps maybe he wants to go out on top if he's able to win the Super Bowl this year. If he's able to take down the Rams here, there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to do it in the playoffs. But that's a story for a different day, I guess. We'll have to see what the future holds. The running back, I was really interested in the running back matchup until I looked at the stats. And Todd Gurley is just so damn good. And I know Alvin Kamara he's a special talent, but man,
he's got half the rushing yards of Gurley so far this year.
Absolutely,
that's insane to think about.
And Gurley only has about 70 more carries. And Kamara right now has 92. Man, that's. And I know Kamara has the receiving yards as well, but Gurley's also a guy that can catch it out of the backfield. So I wonder how much the Rams will miss Cooper Kupp. I can't imagine a lot after seeing their performance last week. But, man, what a great matchup. I'm really glad you picked this game. I wasn't sure if you were going to because everyone else, every single sports show is talking about this matchup this week, but I'm really glad that you chose this one.
It's an intriguing matchup. I feel like this is definitely the game to talk about this week. There was a couple other good matchups in the league, but this is above and beyond the best matchup we'll see this week.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the NBA. This is my topic. I mean, I'm sorry, boys, but I love talking basketball.
You're good.
And I know you guys will appreciate this first topic. We got Derrick Rose. Yes, a headline with Derrick Rose. Scored his career high versus the Utah Jazz. Also blocked the game-tying shot, essentially game-winning shot at the end of regulation with 50 points. Finished the game with 50 points. I couldn't believe that he didn't have 50 points before that in his MVP season. Previous career high was 43, I believe.
Yep.
And, wow, just what a night for him. I tell you what, I was emotional after watching the highlights of that game. And I kept getting updates on my phone saying, Derrick Rose has 30 points. Derrick Rose has 40 points. And then after finishing the game with 50, I said, this got to be a hoax. I said, I can't believe it. Because it was Halloween. I figured they might pull a stunt like that. But, man, I feel so good for that guy. It's been 7 years. 7 years since that MVP season, since he went down to the playoffs with that ACL tear. And just what a fight for him to come back. It's been a grind. And I don't think there's any better representation of what it's like to come back than Derrick Rose. I'm just so proud of this guy.
You're talking about the NBA pulling a hoax. The only thing that was being pulled was Derrick Rose pulling up from the three-point line.
Four of them, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was incredible.
D-Rose, MVP.
I had touched on it a little bit earlier this year, a couple months ago. Fans saw D-Rose outside in the Chicago area, and he said, "You're the man, D-Rose." He said, "No, I used to be, but I'm not." And I think he's getting back to that form. This was a heart-wrenching performance. It was incredible to see D-Rose back to form, looking healthy. He's on his way to becoming the man again, and that's incredible to see. It feels really great. I can't be anything but happy for that guy. He's done nothing but work his tail off since he's entered the league, and it's great to see him score that much and have an incredible career night like that.
All the while, without Jimmy Butler on the floor, he took a leave of absence from playing that night. He's dealing with the Timberwolves organization and potentially being moved before the trade deadline, and ultimately I think he will be, but that's another story that we'll talk about as it develops. Man, one last thing I'd like to say is Derrick Rose is averaging over 18 points a game now after that 50-point performance.
This is 2011, D-Rose.
And he's coming off the bench. I think that he should be, at least if he's not in the top 3 already, he should be a front runner right now for 6th Man of the Year. And that'd be another award I'd like to see him put up on the shelf alongside that MVP trophy.
I don't know. He's going to have competition with Sabonis because in New York the other night he dropped 35.
He did.
Sabonis continues to just do a lot of things. Although I'm not disagreeing with
you. Oh, no, and Sabonis is a great candidate as well.
6th Man of the Year this season. There's a lot of good benches this year in the NBA.
Well, and the only thing that I would say puts Rose above Sabonis is, the NBA and all sports, they love a good storyline. They love a good narrative.
This is a very good
And
one.
he's got the best one so far this season. But, Cale, let's go ahead and talk about the Boston Celtics. This is another team I know you like. You'll also like to know that they tied the franchise record for most three-pointers in a game. 24 against the Milwaukee Bucks, and they also took down the last undefeated team in the association. Milwaukee now at 7-1. Boston moves to 6-2. What do you think of the Celtics? I think they finally found their groove.
Kyrie got his hair cut. He got the fro cut off, and then look what he's doing. He's back to the Kyrie that we know and love before he had that ankle injury last year. That dude, he's got the handles back. He looks sick. He's shooting from the three-point line. It's unreal. He's shooting the lights out again. He's getting to the hoop. Gordon Hayward, that dude's an animal. He actually looked like he learned how to walk again, honestly.
I think he was running last night. But
running full bore. I mean, he was actually keeping up with Kyrie, Tatum, and Rozier. Not only that, I want to talk about Aaron Baines, man. Aaron Baines, the guy who normally gets postered, was sticking him from the three-point line.
I thought he was literally just there to get dunked on.
I thought that's his only
You're telling me
purpose
he
in the
did
league.
something last night?
Yeah, and he was sticking threes left and right. Not only were they threes, I mean, he was shooting them for, I want to say, almost 35 to 37 feet. I mean, they were just dropping left and right. So everything that the Celtics had going last night was working. But Giannis, still Giannis. I can't say his name. Devin.
Dante DiVincenzo.
Thank you. He was sticking threes left and right. The Bucks have that guy, Henson. Is that his last name?
John Henson at center?
Yeah, he was sticking threes. He was looking solid. The Bucks are a good team. You guys said earlier about they might regress towards the middle at the end of the year. I don't know if I see that. Judging of all the sharpshooters plus Giannis, I don't know if I can see him regressing.
They could very well do that, but they've already lost to the Celtics, who I believe will win the Eastern Conference, and they also beat the Toronto Raptors without Kawhi Leonard, so I don't know how good they are actually. When they can play those two teams as well as Indiana, maybe even Philly, I still think Philly is a little...
Wish they did beat Indiana.
Right, I need to throughout the season. If they can continue to do that, then if they want to prove me wrong and grab a 2 or 3 seed in the East, then I'd say that they're contenders. I just don't think Giannis has enough playoff experience as it is. If they want to finally get out of the first round, I would love nothing more than that. They haven't won a first-round series since 2004. There's a fun fact for you.
Really?
Yes, but let's go ahead and move on to the last, and also the last time they won that playoff series in 2004, Ray Allen was on the team.
Wow.
So, yeah, there you go. Let's move on to the last topic, though. J.R. Smith of the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's a little frustrated in Cleveland after a couple games where he did not play because of a coach's decision. He's facing a potential fine for making trade comments to the media. Essentially, the media asked him, "Are you requesting a trade?" And he came out and said, yes, I am. Although he did not specifically say that I'm demanding a trade. He just agreed with the question. The league's reviewing it right now. We're not sure, but he could be fined up to $10,000. Pretty much chump change for that guy. He's making $15 million a year. But what do you guys think about this?
It's the second time that's happened now, right?
Yes.
That's why the fine's going to be $10,000 because it's the second occurrence.
Did they do that to Jimmy?
Not yet.
So my thing is how can they find J.R. Smith? But
Well,
not
Jimmy
find
hasn't demanded it to the media. The
Oh,
media
okay.
has declared it, but he hasn't come out and said straight to the media that I'm demanding a trade. He demanded a trade from the owners.
Right, J.R. Smith came out and said in front of the camera. They
Right,
asked him a
alright,
question,
that's
do
right.
you want traded? He said yes.
Right.
So it's as plain as that. The thing that really is concerning to me is, JR, I don't understand why you're requesting a trade when you're already making $15 million. I understand that you want to play basketball, but why not just work a little harder? It's not like there's really anyone for competition on the Cleveland roster right now. Kevin Love's out.
Work a little harder, take the coach's DNP and
take your check.
take your check. I mean, they're going to keep paying him because they have to.
Yeah, if anything, I don't think the league should fine him because
I don't think they should either.
he didn't come out and say, yes, I want traded. The media asked him a question, and we know JR, he answers honestly. He said yes. So I don't think this is his fault. Yes, it's his fault for answering, but I don't think that this is worthy of a fine. It's not like he's demanding a trade right now.
And it's not like he said it made a bunch of comments that were irrational either about the Cavs organization as a whole.
They were emotional, but not irrational.
irrational. Yeah, there's a difference.
Right. He's played his whole career on emotion. He's an emotional guy, an emotional player, and he wants to play. That's exactly what he is he's a player. He's never sat on the bench for anybody. He's never had a reason to. So, no, I don't think he should be fined. I think it's a little bogus, but maybe the coaches should just play him and they might start winning a game, possibly.
All right, we got to finish up here because we skipped over a topic here. We got to get back up to Illinois men's basketball.
I just want to make sure we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, because Cale, I know he's got a lot of information
Very
on this,
excited.
and I apologize that we almost skipped over that. But yeah, we got to get to that because it's very exciting. Big Ten basketball is back.
So tonight, Illinois Wesleyan obviously coming to Champaign from Bloomington to take on the University of Illinois men's basketball team. I got a couple things I want to talk about. Obviously, on Monday, I'm going to come back with a full report on our starters, who they have listed tonight, along with our bench guys. I'm really excited to see Trent and Io compare together. up on the floor at the same time. And I'm also really excited to watch Andres Feliz, too, coming off of the bench. But I'll be able to go into a little more detail once I see him play tonight. But going off of that, the starting five for tonight will be Trent, Io, Aaron Jordan, Kipper, and Georgie B. or Georgie Bashini-Shavili. So that's a pretty decent lineup. We just need Adonis De La Rosa to get healthy because I don't know if I necessarily want Georgie B. in the 5 slot all season. But that's where we need Adonis to get healthy to come and give us 5 to 10 minutes of just solid rebounding, solid basketball. But I want to move on to some recruiting news. Terrence Shannon Jr. has finally narrowed his list down. Remember, he committed to DePaul, then decommitted. But he's narrowed his list down to 6 schools after he reopened his recruitment. So far, he's got the Illini, Florida State University, DePaul is still on the list, the Georgetown, North Carolina, and Texas Tech. I'm very concerned about seeing North Carolina on that list because we know what North Carolina basketball can do. Roy Williams, I believe, is the head coach over there. Is that his name?
Yep.
So that dude can win. He's proven that he can win.
Well, Michael Jordan and James Worthy and other alumni, they're pretty hard at recruiting guys as well.
Yep.
So.
And Georgetown, too, that's another one red flag for me because Georgetown also puts together great basketball programs.
They're a team that gets the number 1 seed every year.
And I don't understand how they don't make it very far every year. I mean, every year they should be in the Final Four, in my opinion.
Right.
Especially in the conference that they play in as well.
Right.
But going off of that, Terrence Shannon Jr., I'm going to be following that pretty hard because we need a recruit at this point. Because what I'm going to talk about now, Quincy Guerrier from Canada, we've been talking about him all season, has committed to Syracuse. As Tyson,
a little bit closer to home, yeah.
A lot closer to home, and as Tyson stated earlier, you get an offer from Syracuse, that's the one you don't refuse. Illinois basketball and Syracuse, I would have to choose Syracuse right now, even though personally I would stay home. That's just me. But for Quincy Guerrier, he is staying home, and he's playing at a way better program under Jim Boeheim.
Well, and also when it comes to Shannon Jr., I don't think that Texas Tech would be of much concern, but everything else that does raise a flag for me. Even DePaul, the fact that it's still on there, I think it's a very likely possibility.
Watch him reopen this and then commit back to DePaul for no reason.
He's talking about staying home, man. He's really staying home. From Chicago and DePaul's, I can't remember where. I know they play in Rosemont, Illinois at the All-State Arena, but I can't remember exactly where the school is.
It's just concerning to see those big names on there.
North Carolina is the most concerning to me on that one.
Absolutely. All right, well, Cale, have fun at the game tonight, and I know you'll be reporting on that on Monday when we come back here. But other than that, that's all we got for you today, I believe. So if you enjoyed what you heard, make sure that you leave a like, rating, comment down below. Don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button and hit that bell icon to the right of it so you never miss a beat. And also don't forget to follow us on our social media on Twitter at @sports_twin. But with that said, my name is Gavin Campbell. That was Tyson Snyder, Cale Fleming, and we will see you guys next time.
Peace.
Based upon the view